poem written by Lord Alfred Tennyson. In this poem, he is narrating the entire journey of the brook in an autobiographical format, wherein the brook is talking to the reader directly and telling about its journey from where it started and how it finally goes and joins the brimming river. Now, the poet in this poem has pulled a parallel between the brook and a human being's life. The similarities and the differences in the experiences that the brook goes through from the origin to finally joining the river, and the experiences that a man goes through, a parallel between them from birth to death. It's a metaphor, it's a subtle comparison, no direct comparisons have been made. So let us look at the poem in more detail. In the first paragraph he says, I come from haunts of coot and hern, I make a sudden sally, and sparkle out among the fern to bicker down a valley. So the brook is talking to the reader directly and saying, I originate from haunts of coot and hern. Haunts are places that are frequently visited. Visited by whom? By coots and herns. He is talking about two kinds of birds. So perhaps it's an ordinary field where mankind doesn't visit much, but these birds visit. That's where the brook originates. It starts its journey to finally go and join the river. I make a sudden sally. So once it starts, there is a sudden sally. There is a sudden turn, change in the course. I sparkle out among the fern. Now where the river is flowing, on the banks of the river, there is fern. The fern is a plant which is not very bright green in color. It is quite a dull green. And because the fern is dull green and brown in color, this water in between this fern seems to sparkle. It seems to be shining out. To bicker down a valley. So after flowing through the fern, the brook is flowing down into a valley. To do what? To bicker, to talk, to make noise. Because when the water falls down, it makes a noise. So the poet is saying it's as if the brook has gone down to the valley so that it can have a chat there. Because up till now it was a silent river, and once it flows into the valley, it is making a lot of noise. In the second paragraph, the poet is saying, by 30 hills I hurry down or slip between the ridges, by 20 throps a little town and half a hundred bridges. So these are the things that the river crosses. After the valley, it is passing through 30 hills. It hurries down the hills because hills are certain slopes. So it kind of hurries down. The speed is fast. Or slip between the ridges. Ridges are the mounds of the hills. So it is slipping through there. By 20 throps. Throps is like a small town, like a small village. A little town and half a hundred bridges. Half a hundred is 50. So it crosses 50 bridges in its course. Third paragraph is further telling us, till last by Philip's farm I flow to join the brimming river, for men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. So at last it comes to Philip's farm. Philip's farm Philip is a very ordinary name in Europe. So it's an ordinary man's farm that finally it passes through. And after that, these three lines in the third paragraph have been repeated quite often, 4 times in the poem. To join the brimming river, for men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. So the poet is saying that the brook is doing all this, flowing through the fern, flowing through the bridges, the little towns, Philip's farm, with the final goal of reaching the brimming river. It wants to meet the river that is overflowing with water. So join prosperity. Just like men are always gearing towards prosperity, they have the final goal of being successful in life. It's this brook, which is like a tiny river, will go and join this brimming river and become more fulfilled in its endeavor. But for men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. You men come to this earth, you are born, you live your life, but then you go. You leave the earth and go, you die. But I am the brook. I go on forever. A river is perennial. So this river that Alford is talking about here is a perennial river. It does not dry up in the summer months. It goes on and on for years and years and years and perhaps thousands of years. So I go on forever, unlike human beings who come and go. In the fourth paragraph, the poet is telling us, I chatter over stony ways in little sharps and trebles. I bubble into eddying bays, I babble on the pebbles. So in its journey, the brook is doing a lot of things. When it is passing on stony pebbles, when the path is such that there are lots of stones, then the water is again making noise. So it is as if it is chattering. The brook is chattering. In little sharps and trebles, it takes sharp curves and turns on the stony path. I bubble into eddying bays. If there is one corner of the river where the water is inletting into the ground, into the land, then what happens, you must have noticed that you can see a kind of foam over there forming. So I bubble into the eddying bays. I babble on the pebbles. On the stones, it chatters. But then when they are not stones but pebbles, because pebbles are more rounded stones, then there it kind of babbles. It's a more smooth kind of a noise that comes when the river flows on top of the pebbles. Now let's move on to the fifth paragraph. In this paragraph he says, with many a curve my banks I fret, by many a field and fallow, and many a fairy foreland set, with willow, weed and mallow. So the brook is saying that as it passes through many curves, the banks of the river get worn out. Fret means get worn out. And it flows through fields and through fields that look as if they are a setting made in fairyland. They are so pretty. With willow, weed and mallow. These are the names of plants that are there in the banks of the river. I chatter, chatter as I flow to join the brimming river. For men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. So these three lines have again been repeated in the sixth paragraph. They were there in the third paragraph also. In this he says, I chatter, chatter as I flow. As the brook flows, it keeps making noise. It keeps talking to whatever path it is flowing on, the surroundings, the banks that are there. They are making noise in interaction with the participles of the nature that are there. And then it says to join the brimming river. So it has the ultimate goal of going and joining a brimming river, becoming prosperous. Men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. I wind about and in and out, with here a blossom sailing, and here and there a lusty trout, and here and there a grayling. So the brook is saying that while it is flowing, there are certain things that are floating on the surface of that brook. For example, a blossom. Blossom is a flower that has accidentally broken down from the plant because there are plants on the banks. So that flower, that dry leaf, they keep floating on the water and they flow along with the brook. Here, the poet is making reference to the experiences that man gathers along his way through his life as a journey. The friends he meets, the family he makes, they go along with him through his journey. They are there with him. So here a blossom sailing, so sometimes there is a nice flower, and here and there a lusty trout. A trout is a fish which is ever so hungry, keeps eating everything. So it's a lusty trout, it's a greedy trout. So in man's life also, there may be flowers on the surface, but here and there can be a lusty trout. There can be some happenings in his life that are going to gobble up his existence. And here and there a grayling. Grayling is also a fish which is quite smooth and nice. So sometimes in life there are downs like a lusty trout. Sometimes there are ups like a floating flower. And sometimes it's quite grey. No shades of black and white but grey. That's why grayling. So it's an ordinary fish. But the reference here is not black but not white but grey. So an ordinary life. So just like in a human being's life, there are certain times which are moments of happiness. There are certain times which are tragic. And yet in between there are times which are quite ordinary. For the brook also, here and there's a floating blossom, here and there's a lusty trout, and here and there's a grayling. In the 8th paragraph he says, and here and there a foamy flake upon me as I travel, with many a silvery water break above the golden gravel. Now, the poet is painting a picture in front of us. The water is flowing. We have generally seen that in a flowing river or a brook, there is a foam that is there on the surface of the water which keeps flowing along with the river. So as the brook travels, there is a foamy flake on it which keeps traveling. That foamy flake is something that is frivolous, has no meaning, but yet it is like a topping on a cake. So in the human life, there are certain things which are only for show off. They have no material and substance inside. They are just like a foamy flake on top. Very visible, but no substance beneath. With many a silvery water break. So when the water is flowing, sometimes the water splits. Ordinarily, the water is transparent. It has no color of its own. But when this water splits, we can see silver. Whereas the base on which the river is flowing is golden in color because of the stones and the moss. So it is like a golden gravel. So at times in a human's life, there is a silver outbreak. There is a golden path. So because when a man becomes little successful in his life, his career is established, then he has this silver and golden outbreaks. He is traveling on a golden path and there are silver outbreaks and there are foamy flakes which are like status symbols and show off things like a big car. So he is pulling a parallel between a brook's life and a human life. and draw them all along and flow to join the brimming river. For men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. So the poet is saying that as the river flows, it collects all these things on the way and they flow along with the river. Just like in human life, whatever experiences the human goes through and whatever friends and family that the person has, they go along with the person in the person's journey through his life. And then again in the 9th paragraph he is repeating these 3 lines: to join the brimming river, for men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. So the ultimate goal of the brook is to join the brimming river. Just like human beings have the ultimate goal of becoming prosperous and successful in life. But yet, men come and go, they are born but they die. But the brook is better because she goes on forever. In the 10th paragraph he says, I steal by lawns and grassy plots, I slide by hazel covers, I move the sweet forget-me-nots that grow for happy lovers. So again it's talking about the brook's journey. Through the journey it passes through lawns and plots because Europe is very scenic. There is a lot of nature around in Europe. So the brook is passing through many lawns and grassy green plots and it slides through hazel covers. Hazel is a kind of tree which grows a special kind of nut, that is hazelnut. So there are these vast expanses of these trees. So it's like a hazel cover. Hazel is also a color. I move the sweet forget-me-nots. Forget-me-not is a plant which has these beautiful blue flowers which are forget-me-nots, because for the poet these flowers are such that as a lover tells the other that you should not forget me. So these flowers are a symbol of that grow for happy lovers. So as if these forget-me-not plants are growing on the banks of the brook, so that the lovers can come and sit in that beautiful place under the shade of these plants. So these forget-me-nots are growing at the banks for the lovers who come and sit there. Next paragraph, I slip, I slide, I gloom, I glance among my skimming swallows. I make the netted sunbeam dance against my sandy shallows. So in its journey, the brook sometimes slips, sometimes slides, sometimes glooms, sometimes glances. So the speed varies. The way it flows varies. For a human being also, he does not lead his life on a mechanical basis every day. Every day is little different from the other. Sometimes there is a slip, sometimes there is a slide, sometimes the person is gloomy, sometimes he is just glancing through life, what is happening. Among my skimming swallows, swallows are birds that come and actually they come to the river to take some fishes. So they don't alight on the river. They don't settle down there. It's a touch and go experience for the brook. These birds come and go. So for the human being also, there are certain experiences that are very short lived in his life. They don't settle down in his life. They come and they pass away. But they make him slip and slide. So the brook also has changes in its flow because of these experiences which it goes through. Then this is a very important line. I make the netted sunbeam dance. Now the beam of sun that is falling on the brook is passing through the trees on the bank, the bushes on the bank. So it is forming a netted pattern on the surface of the water. And since the brook is flowing, it is making this pattern kind of dance. So not only is the brook manipulated by certain things that are happening, the brook is also able to manipulate to bring about some changes to the surroundings that are occurring around it. So not only is the human being affected by the things that occur around him, he is also able to affect certain things around him. and then against my sandy shallows. Although I am flowing and I am doing all these activities, my banks are shallow. They are not full of activity. They are sandy. They are much settled down. Nothing much is happening there, but there is so much that is happening here in the brook. Let's move on to the 12th paragraph of the poem. Here he says, I murmur, murmur under moon and stars, in brambly wildernesses. I linger by my shingly bars, I loiter round my cresses. So here the poet is explaining how the brook behaves at night time. So under the moon and stars, just like the human beings at night seem to slow down, become less loud, become silent, the brook also now is not bickering or chattering. Now it has started murmuring. It is kind of whispering. It has slowed down. That's why it is making less noise. In brambly wildernesses, wildernesses which are full of thorns. So it is talking about a metaphor wherein it's a dark phase for a human life. In human being's life, there are times which are very dry and scary, as if it is the night, as if he has slowed down. So here the author, the poet, is also making a reference to man growing up. The man has become old. Now it is not chattering and active like it used to be. Now it has reached its old age wherein it has slowed down. It has become silent. It is the night of his life. He is going to now die. But the brook is only passing through this dark night. But I linger by my shingly bars. So now the speed has slowed down. It is kind of lingering there between the thorny bushes, because these are sad times. The old age is time when human beings have illnesses. I loiter round my cresses. Cresses are small plants with very tiny leaves. They are more like water aquatic plants. So I loiter there. I kind of hang around there with nothing much to do. The brook is just kind of there, not moving on, as if it does not have a goal, because human beings in old age seem to have no goal and purpose. Then in the last paragraph the poet says, and out again I curve and flow. Here the brook becomes different from human beings. It comes out of this darkness, it curves, it takes a turn, it has changed, and again it starts flowing to join the brimming river. For men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. So here the man seems to be dying out, phasing out. But the brook comes out, takes a new flow and is headed towards joining the brimming river. So it is going to become fuller again, unlike human beings. For men may come and men may go, but I go on forever. These three lines now repeated for the fourth time in the poem to bring about the emphasis. With this we have come to the end of this poem. Now let us look at the question answers based on the poem.